So the Chicago Bulls have been a little active this offseason. First comes the decision by Garpax to indeed match the offer sheet that Zach LaVine got from Sacramento Kings. 4 years, $78 million. That's right. For a guy with so many deficiencies in his game, you think it's a good idea to tie yourself to the tune of almost 4 years, $80 million worth of guaranteed money because you wanted to match the Kings, because you think matching the Kings, who were the ones that made the offer, indicates good basketball decision-making. So no, I was not a fan of the LaVine re-signing, especially at that price, and specifically for that length of time. But it has happened, so what are you going to do? But the Bulls weren't done. They had cap space left, so they decided they were going to use the majority of it to sign Jabari Parker away from the Milwaukee Bucks to the tune of 2 years and $40 million. And some of you know that one of the thought processes that I had in terms of the LaVine deal was that I would rather see them spend that money on guys like Jabari Parker and others where you're taking gambles and you're taking chances, you're taking risks, but they're short-term, they're calculated, and they could potentially pay off very nicely. But ultimately, the Bulls went in with Jabari Parker to the tune of $20 million a season. And I'm sure a lot of you are sitting there saying, but wait a second. They just gave Parker as much, slightly more per season as LaVine. This is a guy coming off of not one previously torn ACL, but 2. So you've got to be, Jeff, you've got to be pissed about this. You've got to be upset about this. This has got to bother you, doesn't it? And the short answer is absolutely not. Because to me, the circumstances and situations are entirely different. This Jabari Parker deal, yes, it's 2 years, $40 million, but that second year is a team option, and that's incredibly important. Because if the Bulls don't like what they see after 1 year, they can get out from under the deal with no real penalty and get all that cap space back for next year's offseason period when you have all of these big-name free agents that are going to hit the marketplace. So you're really looking at this as a 1 year, $20 million gamble. Now, sure, that is a lot of money still, but it is 1 year, and at some point in time, the Bulls had to spend the money somewhere. So you're talking about a guy that was a former number 2 overall pick. Yes, he's coming off of multiple torn ACLs, but he is a guy similar to LaVine in the sense of he has some deficiencies, but he can also do some nice things on the basketball court. So you're asking me, do I like the thought of gambling on somebody like a Jabari Parker for half the length of time or potentially only a quarter of the length of time of LaVine? I'm okay with that. Do I feel like $20 million a year was a bit steep to go into in terms of the price? Yes. Yes, I do, especially for a hometown kid. I don't see why you felt the need to pay a guy like Parker $20 million for the right to come back home coming off of 2 bad ACLs or 2 torn ACLs. It feels like you set the market a little too high on Parker. And maybe the Bulls and Garpax felt like they had to do this in order to ensure that they got him to come there. And maybe that's what they felt. But I can't imagine any other team was dying to give anywhere close to $20 million to Jabari Parker, even on a damn 1 year prove it, try it out type of deal. No wonder the Milwaukee Bucks were happy to rescind the offer to him, or rescind their rights to him, make him an unrestricted free agent, because they knew there's no way in fucking hell that they wanted to give Jabari Parker $20 million a season for 1 year, let alone possibly 2 of them. And then let's say Jabari Parker ends up becoming the guy that he's supposed to be, and he stays healthy over the next year. Then you opt into him potentially at $20 million, or you decline the team option and you have to pay him more long-term, or you just end up losing him for nothing, or you sit there and have him get through both of his years. Now you've set the price here to where now that's his starting point. He's going to be able to go much, much higher, and you're talking about long-term, potentially having to keep the hometown kid and having to pay him $40 million a damn season, $30 million a damn season. And that seems awfully pricey. So I cannot say that I like everything about the deal in terms of the fact that they gave him so much money with no real reason it feels like to have to. It felt like they kind of outbid themselves in the marketplace, and maybe they felt the pressure because the Bucks had the right to match. They weren't quite sure, weren't able to fully measure the level of investment the Bucks had in Parker. I don't know. But it is a short-term deal. Even if you keep him for 2 years, it's still 2 years, $40 million. It's short-term. You get out of it in a couple of years. Or you can get out of it after this year and get all that cap space back. And either way, it's a calculated gamble on a guy that has had some moments where he's demonstrated some decent big-time potential, but he's had injury concerns and the like. To me, this is entirely different than the LaVine deal. What the LaVine deal told me was that this team was making a statement that he was the franchise player, not marketing, and to me, that was completely and totally ridiculous. To me, when you're looking at Parker, you're looking at a guy who's still in his early 20s. You're adding him to a young core that has marketing, even when you throw in LaVine and Chris Dunn. You look at guys like Wendell Carter, Chandler Hutchinson, Bobby Portis. This team is young. That doesn't necessarily mean they're good, but they are young. And there's a thought that maybe they could grow together and develop and become better over time. And in a couple of years, you watch out. That's crazy, delusional Bulls talk right there, but it is what it is. But as far as Jabari Parker, ultimately, I'm perfectly fine with bringing him in. It had nothing to do with him being a hometown guy. It had nothing to do with that. I could care less about that. I've mentioned the hometown thing just in terms of the price in the marketplace that was set by the Bulls for Jabari Parker services. I don't care. What I do care about is this is a guy that's got some upside. You get a short-term look at him. And if it works, then great. You figure it out down the road. And if it doesn't work, that's great too. And then you get your cap space back in the year. There's really not a whole lot for me to gripe about with this, unlike the Zach LaVine deal.